Welcome to the Health Daily Show. I'm your host, Chitra Nabat. Joining us today is Russell Glass, CEO of Headspace. Russ, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. I've been excited to come on the show.
Thank you, Russ. Tell us, what is Headspace? How does it work?
Headspace is a company that is trying to revolutionize mental health for humanity. We're really trying to think about how we deliver a end-to-end platform that improves the accessibility, reduces stigma, and makes mental health care far more cost-effective for the huge amount of need that's out there.
That is vast in what you just said. Mental health is very complicated, multi-layered.
Yep.
What are exactly the problems or pain points you're solving for, and some examples of the outcomes you've delivered?
So it starts really with prevention. We see that a lot of people have very significant mental health needs, but the majority of the population is actually what you'd call subclinical, right? They need to take care of their mental health, but they're still in a prevention mode. And so Headspace Health has a product, our namesake, Headspace, that allows people to brush their brain, so to speak, right? We don't brush our teeth because we have a tooth problem today. We brush our teeth because we're trying to prevent tooth problems. Headspace allows people to brush their brain and prevent more serious mental health issues from occurring. And we do that through meditation, through mindfulness, through breathing practices to build up a self-care routine. We see on that prevention side that with just 10 days of meditation, people feel 20% less stressed. With 6 to 8 weeks of meditation, just 10 minutes a day, we see 30% reduction in anxiety. We see 40% reduction in depression. There was a study that was just published that showed that meditation is as effective as Lexapro at reducing depression in an 8-week period. And so incredibly powerful. And then we have capabilities, behavioral health coaching, therapy, psychiatry, that we assess people for. We see what level of care they should be in, and we move them into that care based on the need. So as they get more acute, as we have people who have a higher degree of need, we can support that as well.
Those are some significant statistics you just shared and some of the elements. There are many competitors using similar and traditional ways to treat mental health, some delivering similar results. Consumers are out there buying other meditation apps, massages, there's traditional counseling, telehealth. Take us into your methodology, the psychology of it all. What are the ingredients? How do you orchestrate these ingredients? Even down to the voice of the English-sounding person in the guided meditation on Netflix.
Andy, our founder, who went to Tibet and learned meditation as a monk for a number of years and came back and decided this should be how we teach people around the world to, take care of their mental health. We think about our differentiation with 3 core areas. First is brand. Second is the care model itself. And then third is technology. Starting with brand, a big problem in mental health is stigma. So the World Health Organization estimates there are 1 billion people around the world that have a mental health need, and 60% of them are not getting care. Some of that is because there's no access to care. There just aren't enough providers out there. But a huge percentage is because people are afraid to raise their hand and say, I need help. So Headspace solves that with our brand. It's Netflix specials, it's Sesame Street specials, it's partnership with Star Wars. We are normalizing mental health and meeting people where they are so they can start to feel good about addressing things earlier. Second is the care model. So we realize that we're never going to solve this problem globally with the current way care is delivered. There's just too many people with a need, and there are too few providers to deliver that care. We have changed how we think about delivering mental health care, and we start all care with behavioral health coaching. We assess what the needs are. It turns out that 80% of people who come in can be supported with a behavioral health coaching level of care. And then as there's more need, we step people up, but we don't transition them out. We don't move them to external providers. We bring those providers into the care team. And so now they are surrounded by the level of care they need. They step up. Importantly, they step down as soon as they're done with that level of care. So we're using less of the higher license than you'd use otherwise. We're using less medication than you'd use otherwise. And for those who need the medication, for those who need to step up, we have our psychiatrist. We're a 50-state medical provider, so we can step people up in order to provide that care. But then finally, we have a technology layer. So it's brand, it's care model, and then technology. That technology uses large language models, uses AI to predict the best personalized pathways, to put smart answers in front of our coaches so that they have a consistency in how they can respond to our members. We automatically summarize notes. We have smart waitlist features. Basically create automation so that we can continue to scale and improve efficiency, bend the cost curve over time. Those three areas are how not only do we deliver incredible outcomes today, but we'll continue to do it more and more cost effectively and in a more personalized and outcome focused way over time.
And how do you create that stickiness? Because it's easy for this to be transactional for the consumer / patient, right? They may use it regularly for a period of months instead of years or for their lifetime. So what's your approach to patient consumer acquisition and creating stickiness, retention?
Well, part of it is habit formation. And so how do we not only make it compelling for people to start, but keep it fresh, keep it compelling so that they want to continue to work on these things. And that we have an entire studio, an audio and video studio. We have incredible talent. We bring people on like Malcolm Gladwell. We have our own teachers and coaches. And the combination of those things allows us to keep the content fresh, allow people to build a practice, allow them to build habits over time that last a lifetime. The second thing, though, is we don't look at churn as entirely a bad thing. At the end of the day, if somebody comes to us and they learn self-care techniques and they don't need us anymore, that's a win, right? We are trying to create habits that last a lifetime. We're trying to help people take care of themselves. We're helping to provide them the support they need from the care they need when they need it. But then we want them to step down. In an ideal world, we want them to move on and use self-care, whether through us or their own self-care. So not all churn is bad churn, right? Our mission is to revolutionize the mental health of humanity. We want to do so not only with us, but like how do we get everybody thinking about this and everybody thinking about how they can be kind to their mind to change what's happening across the world right now.
So when you say that not all churn is bad churn, talk about each of your stakeholder channels, because you're both direct to consumer as well as B2B2C. And on the B2B side, you have an employer channel, a payer channel. So what's unique about the value proposition to each of these stakeholder channels, and how are you getting that traction?
Yeah. So our consumer channel is pretty traditional. It's direct to consumer. We have a very strong referral component to that channel where our own members are often the best sources of new members. Our B2B channels are, direct to enterprise, as well as our health plan channels are the fastest growing part of our business, growing at approximately 50% year over year. So really hyper growth mode. We have about 4,000 enterprises that we support today. We have dozens of health plans, over 100 million lives covered. And the focus there is really, from an enterprise standpoint, how do they better support their employees from the day-to-day stressors of life, from the anxiety and depression that we know 20 to 40% of employees are facing right now. We know there's a huge cost. The estimate is anywhere between 5 to 10 days of missed work per year due to mental health issues. We know that the healthcare costs downstream of those who have mental health issues are higher. So an employer is looking at this, and we estimate about a 4x return on every dollar spent on mental health a positive return on investment when an employer invests in a mental health solution like this. And then health plans are thinking about this very similarly. How do we provide access? How do we make sure that we're keeping overall healthcare costs down by managing these conditions early and ensuring that people get access so that they don't end up in the emergency room where things can get quite expensive, or with a comorbidity like heart disease or diabetes or MSK, other things that happen when people don't take care of their mental health.
On each of these channels, the macroeconomic environment is recessionary, inflation, job cuts. People need Headspace for the reasons you talked about in terms of the importance of mental health. Many consumers still view this as discretionary spend. So how are you driving growth and achieving more market adoption at scale? And what's the growth on the consumer side, on the direct-to-consumer side?
Yeah, I mean, look, we see that though the economy is challenged right now and inflation's high and we might be entering a recessionary period, it's clear, if you look at the latest WTW survey results, over 240 companies, mental health is still the top priority. And so, we see, if anything, the demand will go up in a recessionary period from a mental health need standpoint. And we don't see any signs that, companies are backing off of their investments here. They're recognizing the importance of it and, frankly, the positive return on investment. So if every dollar you spend returns 4, the last thing you want to do is not invest in this in a recessionary period, right? You want to continue to put dollars in play. And we've also historically, if you look at recessions, healthcare spend doesn't go down in recessions. And so we think this is pretty protected from that recessionary period, unlike some other conditions that might not be as much of a focus right now.
You talked about partnerships with Netflix, Sesame Street earlier. Where are the next waves of innovation coming from for Headspace? More consumer brands, more media partnerships? What other innovation activations?
We're doing a lot of things when it comes to really just healthcare and healthcare integration. So we've got some large health plan partnerships right now. If you look at Kaiser Permanente, they've rolled us out to all 13 million of their members nationwide to be able to access our scaled capabilities and ensure that they're getting the kinds of mental health support they need. We have a partnership with Blue Shield of California, which has been incredible, where we bring members in. It's actually been the most successful launch they've had to date from the standpoint of engagement of their members. And over the last 12 months, we've seen about 35,000 or so of their members come in. We assess the need state. We've sent about 80% of them to Headspace. We've sent about 80% of the remainder to behavioral health coaching. And we've sent the remainder to therapy and psychiatry. And we're seeing over 80% of those members show improvements and outcomes. And we're actually getting paid based on some of those outcome milestones. So it's value-based care, it's reducing the cost of care, it's improving access. And that's where we're going to continue to focus on changing the dynamics of the mental health space.
Russ, leadership. In life, in business, there are rules, norms, codes on how things are done. Where have you been a code breaker and how did you do it?
I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm pretty new to the healthcare space. And I joined Ginger in 2018, and that was my first role in healthcare. And I think, interestingly, coming in with some degree of modesty about what's going on in healthcare and just spending a lot of time listening and being willing to ask what might be naive questions was a bit of a code breaker kind of a moment for me, because I could just ask things that many people who've been around healthcare for a long time might not be willing to ask, and then have a different perspective on how we might solve that. And I think that has led to us doing some things differently than, you might do otherwise. And I've always been willing to experiment. I've always been willing to look at things a little bit differently and take some risks.
Russ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed it.